Good morning, everybody. So today is Labor Day. It's 9/2/2019. If any of you are watching Hurricane Dorian, man, it's been an interesting one. We've been watching that pretty close. Some of my partners are actually roofers down in the Florida area, and so they're keeping their eye on that thing really close. So if you have any family members down there, if you happen to be down there, just hang tight, and I hope you guys are okay. So today I'm actually working for at least a few hours. I've got a few things to do with family today, but it's Labor Day. Some of you are here, some of you aren't. But I have a pretty decent group that decided to show up today. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm here with you. So this is Beto Paredes of the Morning Mindset. If you're new to the mindset, get yourself a pen, notebook, make a few notes, and we're going to cover a subject here today. For those of you that were here last week, we did a sales series. That is actually up on my YouTube channel, as well as in LinkedIn and Facebook, if you guys want to catch that. And so today, this is a good subject. This is an important subject, really, depending on what you're doing with your business, especially if you're an entrepreneur, or if you own a business or trying to start a business and you're working on something additional or new to the things that you're doing. So this is something that I've gotten caught up in. This is something that honestly we deal with quite consistently here. At Beto Paredes, we have a lot of different joint venture projects. We have a lot of client services and things that we manage. But there's also what I'll call passion projects that we do when we operate here. And it's not that these take a back burner for us. They actually stay pretty consistent with some of the things that we're developing, some of my own personal projects, I guess you could call them. And so we're going to talk about long-term projects today and in a certain format, because we're not speaking about projects that have official traction, meaning let's say that it's a service or a product and it's already in the sales cycle or it's already being marketed and you've already got clients and customers. We're talking about projects that you're working on that take some measure of time to create that track or to at least prepare for that track. And you could almost call them in the incubator stage. And what we a lot of times will end up doing, especially if we're busy working on a lot of other things. So for long-term projects, enthusiasm and belief is easy when ideas are new. You need to plan for when they get redundant. So if you come up with something, you're speaking with a partner, or you're being creative personally, and you come up with just a genuinely good idea that you know is going to be great for the marketplace, you know may be really good for a new way of processing. Let's say if you're a salesperson, just a new program that you're going to be putting in place. It could even just be personal track in the way you operate, as different from the way that you've been doing things. In other words, a planned time when you're going to change your schedule and the way you're doing things. Well, when your ideas are brand new, man, they're easy. People want to talk about them. You're enthusiastic about them. Your imagination really churns up really strong in the beginning on these things, and you also get very emotionally involved or passionately involved in your ideas when they're first generated. And a lot of that is because as human beings, we do consistently seek out novelty. This is a psychological fact. It's one of the needs that we have as individuals. And so when you're coming up with new ideas and there could be potential traction for them, you really need to think about what it is that you're trying to accomplish a little bit more programmatically and logically if you're actually going to do something with these new ideas. And again, we do this a lot here at Beto Paredes. Like, for example, I have a project in the entertainment business. It's actually a social network for artists. Well, I've been working on that as an idea for about 4 years. And we started working on that more specifically in a funded environment. We got some angel investors into that program about 18 months ago. And it is very close to coming out of the incubator stage. It's very close to coming out into beta. And for us, again, unlike a lot of projects that you may be able to launch a little bit faster, but for us, we've had to do a lot of engineering, a tremendous amount of engineering. We've been engineering software for a very long time. So in a consistent basis, there may be an opportunity when we're developing software that we've already got things built. We've got modules, we've got systems, and we can quickly launch something for one of our clients. But when I'm working on something that's very unique and very well may not even have an engineering platform that we've worked with to be able to kind of work from, that's a long-term project. That takes quite some time, and especially if it's an in-house project here with Beto Paredes, it's not only one that takes time, but we always have to keep the primary drivers of taking care of our clients and taking care of the joint ventures that we have as precedent to the things that we do. In other words, those timelines can't be pushed. When we've got deadlines that have to happen because we're building something for a client, well, that has to happen on that timeline, or at least very shortly thereafter, in order to keep things moving properly, keep the relationships good. So, not that the Artist XP's ever been backburnered, but it's always been an initiative that when we have the time, we work on it, which, of course, at one particular time, we made time to work on it more specifically because we did have some funding in. So, what ends up happening is the ideas that you have over time begin to maturate. You begin to think more clearly about them is one benefit to time being kind of played out. But they become more redundant because when new ideas are brand new, they're very brilliant in your imagination, right? They actually even drive energy. They make you feel good about the project itself, and you may even do a lot of earlier work and really write a lot of stuff down or make some plans. But you want to keep this in mind that no matter how amazing it is or how incredible it is, everything has to go through a period of hard work. And especially if it's a more long-term project, it's going to lose its luster to a degree. Because if you don't get that immediate satisfaction of that project taking traction, bringing in clients, whatever it might be, then you've got to plan for that, because no matter how exciting it is, it's going to become redundant. Okay, so you want to schedule in your time. Okay, you want to schedule it in. Okay, well, this is a new idea. This is something we're definitely going to do. Okay, of course, you got to make that final decision early on, and then look at your time frames and plan in 6-week increments. Now, that's just a suggestion, but let me tell you why it's such a solid one. When you plan further than that, okay, if you say 6 months, a year, and that's not the vision of your project, right? You always want to have the vision of where you want to be in a couple of years, but more the tactical aspects of developing that project, the actual the work that needs to be done to get to the place that you need to get to. When you know it's going to be more long term, you want to schedule your time in. Okay, so it's easy to even oversee and push other things that may be already on your table that are redundant now out of the way for a minute for this new excitement, right, that you're having. But that's going to dwindle, and really that's not necessarily the smartest way to even organize and operate something that's brand new in the things that you're trying to accomplish, because you may be already doing a number of things that are requiring an extreme amount of attention, maybe a couple ideas you came up with 6 months ago. And so look at things in 6 weeks increments. And why 6 weeks and not 6 months? How come not longer than that? Because as you maturate your ideas, things change. Okay, and they absolutely do. And one of the ways in which you become successful with something that hasn't ever been on the market, for example, is by planning in smaller periods of time so that your analysis is stronger, right? I'm going to get this much done in 6 weeks, and then I'm going to include partners. I'm going to include beta testers. I'm going to include other people. Or if it's in sales, I'm going to take action on these things very specifically so that you can understand within that 6-week period what's working, okay, and what's not working, because there's always going to be an evolution. Okay, as a matter of fact, that's one of the most punishing things about being in a business model in general, is that there is absolutely no way of understanding everything that's going to happen. There's no way to know. Now, as you become more and more avid as a business professional, there's things you can predict, and you should always be trying to predict things in such a manner that you're more accurate more often. But the reality is there's just absolutely no way. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know who's going to be interested in your project. You don't know exactly possibly how much funding you might need. There's a lot that goes into something that's brand new, especially, and you want to plan that in solid 6 week periods because that's going to give you the landscape for two major things. Number one, 6 weeks is quite a bit of time. When you come up with a project and you start working on it and you start believing it's going to be something that's going to have high value, well, a lot of that excitement usually happens in the first 10 days, right? So you're super excited, talk to a lot of people about it, write down your ideas, your design, and now you've got a solid game plan, let's even say, within that first 10 days. Well, you want to plan further than that because you're going to lose the luster of that project. Here's a couple things that happens. You got to pay your bills. Okay, you got to take care of the things that you're already working on. There's already track. And what ends up happening or poisoning the mindset for people a lot of times is, man, I really do want to get to that, but I'm so busy. I'm just so busy right now. And even though I took the 3 days to think about it and figure it out and plan it out, the reality is I'm back stuck in my cycle. I'm back on the hamster in the wheel right now, and I'm never going to get to it. I viscerally and emotionally can't feel my way through it. And so you want to be a little bit smarter than that up front, be more logical about it. Okay, yeah, I really want to do this. So what am I going to accomplish in the next 6 weeks? What time on what days am I going to dedicate to it? Is it going to require an extra 5 hours a week because I am so busy in my regular work schedule? And if so, where can I put that time? How do I actually plan my activities? This is something that we used to teach when I was doing a lot of multi-level marketing. In fact, I learned this from a leader that was highly successful, a gentleman that was making between $70,000 and $80,000 a month and had done that consistently for a number of years. And he said, if you want your people to be successful, you have to get them to change their activities. And everyone has a full work week. Everyone has a full week, period. Okay, even if that's you sitting on the couch watching your favorite TV show, that even if it's not purposely planned, is planned in your mind. Your habits are defining your week. You don't have any extra time. It's a myth. There's no such thing as extra time, because your mind, your psychology is filling that time with something. Okay, and so even if that's doing nothing, somehow within your psychology and your habits, you've planned for that. And that can be a little frustrating to hear that, but it's actually a fact. So when you're thinking about your 6 weeks of this project that you want to do, you want to look at your activities. What am I doing all the time? What can I sacrifice? What can I change in order to actually accomplish the things that I'm trying to do? And one of the hardest things that he would bring up is that, maybe you're super dad. Maybe you go to every single one of your kids' games and you're always home doing homework with your kids. And he's like, this is the hardest one for me to explain. And you might have to actually cut into time that you find extremely personally valuable. Okay, and that doesn't mean that you stop spending time with your family. You guys already know I'm never going to do something like that. But even in my time frame, I work 70 hours a week. Okay, and I have that scheduled. I have that timed out intelligently. If you guys want to watch the mindset on that, it's on my YouTube channel. But the reality is, if you're going to actually do something new, or you're going to have a different process or work differently than you've worked, look at 6 weeks worth of your time and say, how do I fit in the time I need to do it? Okay, and if I was to give a basic suggestion, is something new in the week that you have. You're already busy doing a number of other things. I would say that at least 5 hours a week, that's a minimum of what you need to put into something newer if you're really planning to make something happen out of it. More time if you have it, okay? And you want to make sure you planned it out for 6 weeks, because you're in the third week, you're going to find 15 reasons why you can't do it. Okay, it's new. No one's really thinking about it. It's just this passion project of mine. I don't necessarily have the time for it. It doesn't affect anybody if I don't do it, right? How's that one? How many of you sat down and had that conversation with yourself? Okay, it's just me. It's just an idea I have. In fact, it's probably somewhat disruptive to my company, somewhat disruptive to my family, somewhat disruptive to my time, and it's just me, right? So it's very hard to get out of that stage. and actually get it to where it starts becoming important to other people, because especially if it's new. Okay, so plan it out, schedule in your time in 6 week increments. And when you do that, you're gonna be able to really kind of get a much clearer idea of if you do have time. Because let me tell you something, you normally do. It normally comes down to you changing certain activities in your week that you would normally engage in. Okay, simple, easy ones to give up are the selfish ones, right? Stop watching that TV show that you're always watching. That's an easy one, right? Stop waking up at 10 o'clock on a Saturday because it's quote unquote Saturday, right? You can look at the things that you normally do and figure out where pockets of time can be developed up to a 5 hour period. That one's easy. Okay. So there's no way that you're not able to do it. But if you don't plan for it, you will have an emotional experience on a daily consistent basis that you don't have the time. Okay. And pretty soon, and I've done this in some ways, because I have so many ideas, in some ways it ends up being this way. Someone I'll talk to, I haven't talked to for 3 or 4 years, like, Beto, that idea that you talked about, man, did you ever do that? And it'll be something that honestly I never did. I never took action on. I never moved forward on. And for sometimes, and some reasons, it's because it wasn't as strong of an idea as the other ones that I have. But there's one or two of them where I'm like just realizing that I just didn't take the time. Okay, and it didn't affect anybody but me, other than just that slight regret, like, man, I could have done that. Okay, so reality is, look at a 6 week time frame and say, how do I pocket that in? If there is truly a difficulty or an impossibility, okay, let me tell you, back to Artist XP, came up with that idea over 4 years ago, didn't cut traction with it till 18 months ago. Because even though I worked on it and planned on it, heck, me and my partners, we even went and made a quick film about it. Right? We actually went into a studio and did a bunch of stuff to kind of give an introduction to it. And this is early on, and I couldn't cut traction on it. But I didn't do that from the point of just not trying. I mean, we worked on that for probably about 3.5 to 4 months, and so it had to be shelved for a minute. So that does happen. Okay, I needed other metrics. I wouldn't have known how much I actually needed for real, the logical side of it, the truth, if I wouldn't have put in at least enough time. So if you want to get something done, look at a 6 week period. Don't just judge it right away that you can't do it. It can't be accomplished. Say, what can I do in 6 weeks consistently? What time can I give up? Where can I place the momentum that's needed on a weekly basis so that in 6 weeks I can actually make a real judgment call on where it's at? Okay, 3 hours worth of work is not enough. 10 hours worth of work is not enough. But you put in 40, 50, 60 hours over 6 weeks, you're going to be very clear as to whether or not you can actually identify the new project or the new way of focusing your time, because you'll have actually taken that time in that time period and have fulfilled the actions and activities towards getting it done. You'll have much more information. You'll be much more educated personally on where it might be. And the pleasant surprise is about 70, 80% of the time, unless it's some gigantic project like we end up trying to do here at Beto Paredes, you're probably going to notice that you do have the time and that there is a way to structure it. And when you get to the end of that 6 weeks, do a strong analysis and get another 6 weeks on the table. Okay, if you're going to move forward, don't go from your 6 week plan to your 10-day plan or your 2-day plan. Like, oh man, I made it this far, so I'm just going to see if I can keep it moving. Plan again. Okay, plan larger periods. Okay, it's going to consistently tell you whether or not there's value in the things that you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so long-term projects, enthusiasm and belief is easy when ideas are new. You need to plan for when they become redundant. Schedule in your time in 6 week increments. Okay, and again, this is anything. For us, a lot of times it has to do with new engineering projects and potentially new companies. In your world, it may be whether or not you're going to go into full-time sales, right? That could be just the experiment that you're doing, right? And it also may be that you're in full-time sales, but you're not making enough money, right? And so you're like, all right, well, how do I get into a program over the next 6 weeks where I'm just fervent about making new money and increasing my prospecting by 40 calls a day? increasing the amount of time I'm spending on the business, adding a Saturday morning, right? It may be that simple for you in that 6 week period, and you really do need that amount of time to really understand whether or not you're spending that time intelligently and if it's going to be something that you can really accomplish. So have a great Labor Day. Okay, I'm going to be here for a few hours myself, and then I will be spending some time with my family today, and I will be back here again tomorrow morning.